Hello, everyone, and welcome to Meow Mix, the Carolina Panthers podcast. My name is Steven. Jerry is not here today. He is on vacation, so it's just me, and I get to talk about maybe the worst game in Panthers history. Yeah, maybe. There's of course, the Delone playoff game was an absolute disaster. Everyone knows what I'm talking about there against Arizona, 2009, I think. But this one was really demoralizing. You get so excited for football season to get here, and we've all talked ourselves into the Panthers, probably not a Super Bowl team this year, right? But there's like that outside shot of a potential division, right? An outside, right? Of course, Jerry and I did our preview episode a few days back, and we both came up with 6 or 7 wins total. I had 6, Jerry had 7. So again, no one's expecting fantastic things, incredible things from this team, but I think we did expect them to come out and look at least improved from last year, and they did not. They did not look any better than they looked last year. In fact, this game was worse. This might be as bad as Bryce has looked. I'd have to go back and kind of look at some of the games from last year, but, he just didn't look good. He didn't look comfortable. He didn't look confident. He didn't look like he belonged. To put it bluntly. And that's scary as a Panthers fan. I think Bryce, just based on what we've seen, I think Bryce has the skills to take a team that is a quarterback away, maybe to the playoffs, right? I think he's got those skills. We saw it in Alabama, or at Alabama. He can do things. But when he's asked to be the franchise savior, to be the reason that you win football games, I don't think that's who he is. And unfortunately, this team, since he's been here, has not had the talent or the coaching to get that out of him. And I don't see that changing. I don't know what changes that. What makes Bryce become the quarterback that we all hope that he could be, right? How many years is it going to take? How many drafts? How many head coaches? How many systems is it going to take before Bryce can maximize that potential? We don't have the time, unfortunately. David Tepper certainly doesn't have the patience. Maybe had Tepper stayed out of some of the decision making, as a good owner does, then there might have been a different decision on draft day. But here we are. You've got, I don't want to even bring his name up, but the guy in Houston who looks great, looks like the next big thing. You've got Anthony Richardson, who just is so exciting to watch, right? Even Will Levis, like at least that offense moves. He's not very good, I don't think, but at least they get some enjoyment out of watching the offense from time to time. We don't. We haven't had much to root for at all with Bryce. You could point to 1 or 2 games last year where everything kind of came together and looked okay, but 47-10. That's not all on Bryce. Don't get me wrong. That's not all on Bryce. But that's sort of the headline for me, right? Is it doesn't seem like this guy has what it takes to put the franchise on his back. And that's what the Panthers are asking him to do. And he's just not that guy. Now, the Panthers as a whole came out totally unprepared to play today. And that 100% goes on the head of Dave Canales. Dave, you're not going to watch this, of course, but I hope that people are in your ear saying, yeah, maybe some preseason snaps would have helped, right? Maybe some preseason snaps could have gotten some of this rust knocked off, gotten some of that timing down a little better. Some of these plays that you're running, run them in live fire. A preseason game is not a regular season game in terms of speed and everything like that, but it's a whole hell of a lot faster than practice. And practice is not the same as a game. It's just not close. Even a preseason game, it's just not close. And it looked like it today. The Panthers came out there. They looked like they did not know what was going on. There was no flow. There didn't seem to be any overarching plan in terms of, Dave Canales talked about running the ball. Well, Bryce threw that thing 30 times. Now, some of that was situational because the Panthers were down 17-0 in the first quarter. You can't really run your way back into that. But first play of the game, why would you throw the ball over the middle the first play of the game? Just run the ball. That's what the Saints did. You've been talking about running the ball, establishing, the run, play action off the run, pass off the run. And you come out and the first play is an interception and you're down 10-0 in less than 5 minutes. I don't understand, and again, these are things that you can learn in preseason. You can come out and you can do some things like this with your starters. I don't know what they were treating preseason as. It seemed like just a tryout, but it has to be more than that. I mean, you saw Patrick Mahomes play in multiple preseason games. You saw starters around the league playing in multiple preseason games, multiple drives. They do that because it works, because some of the players need it. Most players need it. And you're a rookie head coach with a second-year quarterback, a whole new offense, and you're not going to go out there and play anybody in the preseason. And you come out and you score 10 points and you get blown out and embarrassed in your first game, a division game against a heated rival, or at least that once was before the Saints just decided to own Charlotte. And I know the game was in New Orleans, but they might as well just own Charlotte at this point. I think they've won these last 6 games against the Panthers. At one time, the Panthers had not scored in 9 quarters, I guess after the first quarter, which had not happened since 2000, they said on the broadcast. That is generationally inept, right? And again, that's not on Dave Canales. I put that firmly on David Tepper, who is the next person we can throw completely under the bus here. He's just, every decision he makes, it seems like, is not working out. It's not for the best of the franchise. Now, Jerry, it seems like, is a little more out on Dave Canales already than I am. Rookie head coach's first regular season game ever. This guy's only called plays 1 year. Now, maybe you say, well, why would David Tepper hire a guy like that? And okay, 100%. That's a valid question. That is a valid question. But he did hire him. And I believe that we will have to understand that it's going to take Dave Canales some time to get used to being a head coach and get used to play calling, honestly. He called the plays in Tampa Bay last year, and that offense was pretty good. But, hey, Baker looked really good today without Dave Canales doing anything. So you kind of have to wonder how much of that was Dave Canales versus how much of that was Baker. Baker looked good. Sam Darnold looked good. Stroud and Richardson looked good. Like all of these quarterbacks the Panthers have either had or could have had all put up good performances today. And I don't remember if Indy won, but I think the other three did. In fact, I know the other three did. That's tough. That's tough. That's tough if you're a Panthers fan looking at Bryce Young. I mean, thank God Caleb Williams didn't go off today. Like he looked bad too. He looked not as bad as Bryce, but he looked pretty bad. I don't know. Guys, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Jerry was supposed to join me for this podcast, but he's on vacation. I think had the Panthers actually looked competent, he would be here. But he couldn't. He's not going to take time away from his family on vacation to talk about this team. And I don't blame him. I told him. I was like, enjoy your vacation, man. Don't even think about this crap. It's hard enough to talk about it by myself. But I don't know what the answer is. And I don't know what to tell Panthers fans. I don't know what to tell myself as a Panthers fan, a diehard Panthers fan from the beginning. This gray hair, it's earned, right? I've been around a while. I remember the very first Panthers game. I remember the first playoff appearances. I've been a diehard since day one. And it's getting difficult to stay as invested. I don't know if this is the last year of this podcast. It very well may be. By the way, apologies for like the intro and the background and all this stuff. I have all this old stuff. Jerry's got all the new stuff on his computer, with the new branding and everything. But this is what we got. So sorry about that. But we love doing the podcast, but having an obligation to watch the full games and then talk about them, do the research, for previews and all the other stuff that we like to do. Doing it because we're fans, is one thing. Doing it as an obligation when the team is this bad and feeling like, my kids were asking me today, why are you doing the podcast? They got beat 47-10. I was like, well, that's because we have people that like to listen to us, and that's, we've made a promise to all of you to do this. I like doing it despite the subject matter right now, but it does kind of get hard at times to talk about this team and try to find something positive to talk about. And with this game, it's going to be a struggle to find anything positive to talk about. It's a struggle to find anything that has happened during this David Tepper tenure that's been good, that's moved the franchise forward, that's moved Charlotte forward. I know he's brought music. Believe me, he's brought music. We never had music before, so that's great. But he couldn't get Taylor Swift. Travis Kelce could. David Tepper could. But yeah, I don't know, guys. We'll talk about the game. Again, overall feelings are depressed, very down. It's almost 8:00 here on the East Coast, and just trying to process everything is it's not been fun. It's not been fun, but Let's just kind of take a look at some stats here. Again, none of these are good. Bryce Young, 13 of 30, 161 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Of course, the interception on the very first play of the game, which I just don't understand the play call. We talked about it, just didn't really get it. And then you've got first drive of the second half. You basically start off both halves with an interception. So not great. Less than ideal. Andy Dalton came in at the very end there. Basically, you're just getting Bryce out of the way of any danger at that point. No reason to have him out there when you're getting just absolutely destroyed. But this team would be better with Andy Dalton at quarterback. I don't think any of us would argue that. Andy Dalton, certainly not a great quarterback by any stretch of the imagination, but I would feel way more confident in him out there than Bryce Young at this point. And I know that's not the point, right? The point is Bryce has to grow. He has to learn. We've got the new head coach in here. They're going to be doing that together. And best case scenario is they figure it out as the season goes on. And, by the end of the season, even if they've only won 4 or 5 games, we can look at each week by week and see improvement. Going to be hard not to improve after this game, right? Like this game is the perfect starting point if you want to start from 0, because that's pretty much where they are. I hope that this is rock bottom. If they get beat 60-0 next week, then you're probably not going to see me talking about them. Rushing wise, just again, that the whole thing was talking about establishing the run. The whole offseason, Dave Canales' entire system supposedly was built around the run. Well, you had Miles Sanders lead the team in carries or in yards at least, 5 carries for 22 yards. I thought he looked okay. Chuba, 6 carries for 14 yards. Thought he looked bad. But again, they didn't try to establish the run. Bryce himself, 4 for 12 with 1 touchdown. He stumbled his way in for a touchdown, which, nice to see. I'm glad that Bryce used his legs a little bit there. Mike Boone gets called in off the practice squad, and he gets 4 carries for 7 yards. Mingo, 1 for 3. So you have Sanders, Chuba, and Boone all with almost the same amount of carries. Just give Chuba 15 carries. Give Chuba 15 carries, give Sanders 5 or 6. Mike Boone doesn't need any carries. Let's where's Blackshear? Blackshear is a good change of pace guy. Let him have those carries. Mike Boone wasn't impressive in the preseason. I don't understand. You had Dylan Johnson, who actually did look impressive in the one game he had. They immediately cut him. If you want to give some no-name guy some carries, bring that guy up. Why are we giving Mike Boone 4 carries? And I get it. It was at the end of the game. Who cares? But man, just let Chuba run the ball. Chuba has looked good running the ball when he's had the opportunity. Give him the opportunity. Adam Thielen led the receivers with 3 catches for 49 yards, long of 32. Mingo, 2 for 40. Of course, he had the long of 35 that he nearly fumbled, which would have been his second fumble of the game, second lost fumble of the game. But he luckily stepped out of bounds as he was tumbling to the earth. So Leggett, 4 for 35. Deontay Johnson, 2 for 19. Targeted 6 times, 2 catches, 19 yards. David Moore, 1 for 14. Ja'Tavion Sanders, 1 for 4. Now, Ja'Tavion Sanders got targeted 1 time in this game. Officially. I think he also had another catch that was taken away by a penalty. But just again, Good teams have good tight ends that they use. The Panthers aren't. On the defensive side, Shaq Thompson, welcome back, man. Good to see Shaq. 10 tackles, led the team. 2 tackles for loss. Echo Leota had 4 tackles, but 3 of them for loss and the sack. So the one Panthers sack, I got to tell you guys, I've been harping on the offense. The defense was terrible. The defense was awful. Run defense was non-existent. And it is something that we were worried about, right? We were worried about the pass rush for sure. There was no pass rush. Anytime they even got opportunities, the secondary blew it, right? Like the first touchdown that Carr threw. There was actually a little bit of pass rush there, but J.C. Horn couldn't keep up with Shaheed. And I don't know if there was supposed to be a safety over the top or something. I'll have to kind of go listen to Canales and the guys talk about that. But either way, it was blown. Somebody blew it. And that was one of the few opportunities the Panthers had to get to Carr. But good job, Leota. I mean, I thought he looked pretty good out there. 3 tackles for loss, as I said. So, maybe this is Frankie Louvu 2.0. That's what we can hope for, right? A'Shawn Robinson, 9 tackles. Where was Jadeveon Clowney in this game? Hey, was he on the field? I think I saw him one time as they were talking about that he hadn't shown up. This is something I was worried about with him. I thought he looked fairly good in the one preseason game that he played. But in this game, he was a ghost. Did not see anything. Officially, he's targeted or he's given 1 tackle. Yeah, the defense was terrible. They forced 1 turnover and got 1 sack and gave up 47 points. So that should tell you about all you need to know. Raheem Blackshear had 8 kickoff returns in this game. Didn't have to worry about any punt returns because the Saints never punted. Not a single time. Leggett also had a kickoff return. So 9 total kickoff returns for the Panthers in this game. And their average starting field position was somewhere around the 25. So this new kickoff rule did nothing positive for the Panthers. Eddie P, 1 for 1 extra point. And then Hecker, I think, got a punt block towards the end, but otherwise looked fine. Real quick on New Orleans. I mean, you have Derek Carr, 19 of 23, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, QB rating of 142.5. In comparison, Bryce had a QB rating of 32.8. Carr, again, Carr is not a very good quarterback, right? He is mediocre at best. He looked like a Pro Bowler. He looked like an All-Pro against the Panthers. He was putting the ball wherever he wanted. He had time and made the right reads and made the right throws. Kamara looked like vintage Kamara. 15 carries, 83 yards, and a touchdown. 5 catches, 27 yards. So over 100 total yards for him. You had Jamal Williams come out, 11 carries, 38 yards. Taysom Hill, a guy that we talked about in our preview that we were scared to see, 5 carries, 35 yards, ran really hard, almost caught a touchdown. Good breakup by, was it Jackson, I think, on him. But he did have 1 catch for 1 yard. Shaheed led receivers for New Orleans, 3 catches, 73 yards. Foster Moreau, good gracious. Foster Moreau, 4 for 43 and a touchdown. Again, the tight ends, just kind of killed the Panthers. Juwan Johnson, 2 for 26 and a touchdown. Olave was kept in check, 2 for 11. I'm sure a lot of you guys out there probably have him in fantasy. You're not happy about that, but at least J.C. Horn, it looks like, shut him down. On the defensive side, Alontae Taylor led them with 3 total tackles and 3 sacks. 4 total sacks for the Saints in this game. Demario Davis got the other one. Yeah, I mean, you had Will Harris and Jordan Howden, my gosh, with interceptions here. Groupie 4 for 4 on field goals with a long of 57, career high for him. And that's the stats. I mean, if you want to look at some team stats real quick, the time of possession, which is something I always like to look at, 36 minutes for the Saints, 23 minutes for the Panthers. Almost 37 minutes for the Saints and 23 minutes for the Panthers. Total yards, 379 for the Saints, 193 for the Panthers. I mean, in the second half, it felt like the Saints kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit, even though they scored, plenty of points. They didn't put up a lot of yards. They had almost 300 yards in the first half alone. Third downs. Saints 7 for 13, Panthers 1 for 10. Not going to win if you're 1 for 10 on third downs. I'm sorry. Again, turnovers, the Panthers 3, the Saints 1. Not going to win a lot of games when you have 2 more turnovers than your opponent. The Panthers did win the penalty battle, 6 for 80 versus 10 for 95. So there you go. There's something to hang our hat on, I guess. But, yeah, I mean, 37 rushing attempts for the Saints versus 20 for the Panthers. And again, I understand. A lot of that is game flow. Saints way up. They will run the ball more as the game winds down. But they did seem to come in. Well, again, Dennis Allen, not a good football coach, head football coach, in my opinion. In a lot of people's opinions, like that's not just something I made up. That's fairly widely considered the case. Looked like he knew exactly what he was doing, knew exactly how to stop Dave Canales and the Panthers, and knew how to beat us. That's what he did. It's tough. It's just really tough. The only positive things that I can say here really are it looks like the Panthers came out of this game healthy, right? J.C. Horn lasted a full game. That's great. Shaq Thompson back looking like his old self, looked fast. I thought Michael Jackson looked pretty good. Had a couple of breakups, had a couple of nice tackles. So I thought he looked okay. I'm sure he had some blown coverages as well. I mean, they scored 47 points. So I'll have to kind of look at some PFF stuff and kind of see what the stats look like there. But just from what I saw, he didn't look like a total disaster. And again, this is the first game for Dave Canales as a head coach in the NFL. It's a bad one, right? This was a bad outcome. But there are a lot of things, a lot of lessons that Dave Canales, if he ends up being a good coach, is going to learn from this game, right? And we have to believe that he will end up being a good coach at some point. Because if we don't believe that, then we're just doomed to be miserable forever, right? I mean, we have to believe that Canales is going to grow into a good coach. I believe he will. I think he has the right demeanor. I think he has the right way of thinking about things. It will be very interesting to see next week how they come out and what they look like. Will they grow from this game? I mean, even if they get beat 35-17, right? That's growth. Maybe the next week it's 28-21. Maybe the week after that it's more closer to a win or potentially a win. I haven't looked at the schedule, so I don't really know off the top of my head who they're playing 4 weeks from now. But the point is, they have a chance to grow from this, and they have a chance to look better next week and look even better the week after that. And it will be tough to look worse than they looked this week. So, this was always going to be a rebuilding year, despite the fact that that word seems to be banned in Bank of America Stadium, right? I mean, retooling is what Dan Morgan recently said they were doing. No, you're not retooling. You are rebuilding. And if this season continues to go the way that it has gone, you will be drafting a quarterback with the number 1 pick next year. That's just the way it's going to be, right? I mean, this looked like the worst team in the NFL. It looked like the worst talent in the NFL. It looked like the worst head coach in the NFL. I don't believe that will be the case by the end of the season. But that is what it looks like right now. And that is what it is right now. To be frank, like, this is a 2-win team from last year, and they come out week 1 and they lose by 37 points. This is the worst team in the NFL, with one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. And there is no argument against that right now. The only way to argue out of that is for the Panthers to start playing better, to put Bryce in more winning positions, right? They got to figure it out. They're going to go back. They're going to look hard at this tape. I do believe Dave Canales is a worker. I think he will do everything in his power to get Bryce put back in positions to win and to, have success. But this game was not that, right? This was not that. So, all right. What are we looking like here? Let's see. Let's do some heroes and zeros, I guess. I mean, you could say zero. You could say the whole team. That feels like a cop-out. I'm going to go Bryce. I mean, those 2 interceptions, starting the game off with an interception, just a bad throw. He missed so many throws in this game. There were guys open. He did have some time here and there. I thought there were opportunities he could have tucked the ball and ran. He didn't. So I'm going Bryce as my 0. Again, you start off each half with an interception. That just puts you behind, and it demoralizes the defense. Can you imagine being the defense? Sure, you give up the long play to begin the game. That happens, right? Blown coverages happen from time to time, even with really good defenses. It happens. But then just immediately, the ball is turned back over. You do your job. You hold them to 3. The ball's turned over on the bad, your side of the field. You hold them to 3. And then your offense just can't get anything going the whole game, and you just kind of fall in, worse and worse field position, turnovers. It's got to be demoralizing for the defense. It's got to be demoralizing for Evero, for Shaq and J.C. Horn, all those guys. I mean, it's just got to be, tough to go out there. And, that is their job. That is their job. They have to go out there and they have to hold. But I can imagine just the depression at halftime when you're down 30-3. That's rough. Is there a hero in this game? No hero. No hero in this game. Again, good to see Shaq back. I think J.C. Horn played a fairly good game. I'll have to go really see and hear what they talk about on that blown touchdown at the very beginning of the game there. If that was on him, then, again, so be it. Even the best players have moments like that. But yeah, I have no hero. So no hero in this game. I don't know. All right, everybody. So follow us on Twitter at Meow Mix Podcast. If you want to leave a comment, please do. We can, we'll probably discuss some of those on the preview show. I believe Jerry will be here for that. He may not be. Might just be me again. If so, I'll need some of you guys to send some stuff in. Send if you want to send an email, mailbag@meowmixpodcast.com. You can DM us on Twitter. You can leave a comment. Please like and subscribe. That is the only way that we can grow. Even our modest little podcast, we would like to grow if we can. So please do that. And like I said, we'll be back later this week, probably on Friday, to talk about the Week 2 matchup. Carolina Panthers taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. So until then, everybody stay safe out there and keep pounding.